hopefully give you guys some strategies, or you guys can always come back to us. We're here, well, I'm here every weekend. I'm here every Sunday. You know what we didn't do is we should have given everyone our email address too. If you ever have a tough question, and you can, well, Tyler has that information, you guys can find us through there. Because if you have like specific things that you're dealing with, we'll leave some room to talk at the end. But hopefully we can give you guys some strategies and just information to make you feel better about dealing with some of the challenging behaviors or challenging kiddos that we may have come through the doors.
And we attend a lot of these behavior trainings, and so we're trying really hard not to like throw out so much jargon. And so please stop us if you have any questions on any of the slides, or if you want us to re-clarify. So yeah.
Okay.
So I love this first name. It says, "You take me out of church to go to children's church so I can learn how to behave in church." Seriously?
Okay. Oh, it works. This is
Perfect.
cool.
Working? Okay.
Oh, I use the clicker. This
Perfect.
is fun. I need this in school.
Watch it, it's sensitive,
Oh, shoot.
you'll just be standing there and you'll like hit it 3 times.
Okay.
Too much power.
So the biggest thing is behavior is a form of communication. So when a kid is in your class and they're, in terms of acting out, try to see it rather than like the kid is being bad, the kid is acting out, rather than what is this child trying to communicate? What are they trying to tell me based off their behavior?
Right, it's that old school frame of mind. We don't want to think, oh, you're just a bad kid. These kids aren't bad. They're trying to tell you something, right? And they're just not using how they're trying to tell you may not be the most appropriate way. So maybe they don't know how, right?
They don't have the skills to use their words yet to be like, I'm really angry right now, or I really feel unsafe. And so rather than using their words, they're gonna like run away, or they're gonna hit you, or they're gonna throw things, or.
So that's why I have this funny thing. So let me get this straight. I don't have to cry and yell to get my cookie. I mean, if you think about it, right, like you have a tantrum and all I want is the cookie, but I can just ask you, maybe you'll get it to me. Right?
Yeah.
So I thought this was kind of interesting. When you look at these kiddos, right, you're only seeing the tip. And this is an example that I get in a lot of my trainings is it's an iceberg. You're seeing the tip of what's coming to Crossroads. Right? You're not seeing the underneath about what's happening maybe in their own personal lives. They're angry, they're not having joy in their life, they don't feel safe at home, they don't feel safe anywhere, but that's all below the surface, right? And so sometimes these kids can't communicate that, and again, it goes back to it, behavior is communication. So all of these things that they're feeling are underneath, and we don't know that. We're seeing these kids maybe for an hour, once a week, right? So we're not understanding. We get little tidbits of what's going on, but that's where their behavior is stemming from, everything underneath the iceberg example, right? But what we see is just maybe, oh man, this kid's bad, right? But I hate using that word bad. Kids are not bad.
Yeah, so some of the things on here that I really love. So we see hitting, kicking, throwing things, but I really like, is the child just feeling unsafe? Is he feeling, does anybody love me? Do I even belong here? Am I being respected? Do I feel included? Are my thoughts being valued? Am I understood? Do I matter? So.
All right, and a big thing for us here at church is we're not changing these kids' behavior. We have them for an hour, once a week. Changing behavior is hard, right? I work with some of my kiddos, it's like I've taken a whole year and I've changed one behavior a whole year working with these kids 5 days a week, 6 hours a day, right? Shaping behavior is a difficult thing. So I don't want you guys to come into this mindset where I can change this kid's behavior in the next 30 minutes, right? I'm gonna change it, he's not gonna hit the other kids, great, I've got this, right? What we are doing though is managing these kids and making them feel safe at church.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of to piggyback on that. Our mission really is just like management, right? We're just trying to get through the 1 hour, keep everyone safe, and really just to provide a safe space for all the kids to just learn about God. So yeah,
Right, so we kind of have that mindset is I'm going to change this kid, but what you can change is having them feel safe. That's the change that you're making in their life, right? But we're not we're not gonna change these really difficult kids' behaviors in the hour that we have, right? We're not going to do that, but what you can change is what they're feeling, their environment, their safety. Those are the changes that you guys think.
And how you respond to those kids also. You can't change the kid, but you can change how you act and how you respond to them.
That's coming up next.
Yeah. So, yeah, we just kind of made up like 5 essential strategies to kind of help better manage your classroom. So I work in the Explorers with the little ones. And so some things that you guys really could do is like prime expectations. So once they come in, we go to the rug, I always say like, all right, like our eyes need to be on the TV, watching Ollie. We need to be putting our listening ears on. We need to be sitting on our bottoms on the rug. Hands, feet to ourselves. So priming expectations of what the kids should be doing.
So even as a leader, so when your guys are up here in all of these ones, so if I don't ever do brink, but I did do brink the other day, and when I was in here, I was like, all right, I need everyone with calm bodies, eyes are on me, and I can't remember the last thing I said. But you want to tell the kids what they can do. So I didn't say
No talking.
no talking.
Yeah.
You can't stand.
Stop jumping up and down.
Don't walk.
Yeah.
Right? So you want to tell the kids what they can do, because the minute you say no and don't, that's all they heard. They heard the no, they heard the don't, they don't really care what comes next, and they're probably not going to listen to it. And it's a hard thing to change, because we're super primed to say no. I'm not going to lie, I still say no to my kids at school all the time, because that's just natural. No is natural, right? No, don't do that! It's really hard to say, hey buddy, let's put your hands together instead of hit, right? Your first thing is say, no, don't hit! Because that's just what is natural. So that's what we mean.
No is a huge trigger, and for a lot of, at least for my students, like if you say no, like it just seems to make the situation
No,
much
don't
worse.
stop.
And it's exhausting. I'm not trying to say like it is so I'm like no, but it's exhausting to say like okay, like let's keep our hands to ourselves because I don't know, it's just, we're quick to react and so yes. But a lot of times that immediate no will just exacerbate the problem.
So even before you start when you guys, I think each of them, you guys do a little group and you're doing your lesson, right? Because I've now been in all of them. Before you start, I might just start with expectations. What are we going to do? Just as like, I have an example, I put an example up, what Victoria said is an example. Just a few expectations. What do you want the kids to do while they're sitting on their dots? In this room, what do you want the kids to do while they're sitting in the chairs? In that room, they sit on dots too. What do you want them to do on their dots? Just a few, all right, before we start group, blah, 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 blah. Just a list of expectations, and maybe as leaders, you guys can chat real quick, okay, this is what I'm gonna say, or maybe we have some posters that we post in
I was
class.
just about to say, that is actually something that we could make and have them in every class as like a visual board. So before every time and all throughout the entire class, like pointing to the visual, going through what the expectations are. I think having a visual would also be really helpful.
I think a chart showing how to restrain a child might
I mean-
actually influence the kids if they see that on the wall.
I do know how to appropriately restrain a child.
Don't know we're serious.
I mean, we do champs, you do champs
We
as
do
well, we
champs,
do
yeah.
champs, I mean, that might be something as a church we look in, church champs. how
Champs
fun
is
that?
very like school, that's a lot. I mean, if we just did like 0 voices, right now we're talking as a group, our voice should be like indoor
Most of the kids
voice,
would know
level
that.
1. Yeah, I mean, they all do that in school. You should
Yeah,
be
but
pretty
even
familiar
these-
with that.
These would be, I mean, maybe not this poster for the older kids, but just, where your eyes are looking up on them. But just a simple reminder of what your expectations are before you get started in your group really might help, because then you can go back to it and be like, hey, remember what I said? Keep your hands to yourself, or whatever, keep your hands to yourself. Oh, where are your eyes? So you can give those little reminders for them if you've already set the expectations. If you haven't set the expectations, they're like, I don't know where I'm supposed to be looking, you never told me, right?
Well, so that chart would be on the wall?
Well, I mean, it could
Something
be.
like this,
Something
Yeah.
like
and
this.
it would look different in all the
You might-
classes, right? It wouldn't
Age
be like
appropriate.
safe hands, you wouldn't see that in like the high school group. You would see that more in
But expectations is just a big thing, and in our minds, we all know the expectations as adults, right? It's just in great, but kids don't always know. And if you expect a kid to know what you expect without telling them, they're like, what? I don't know, right? So we gotta remember that. The other thing is verbal communication. So we like to talk about consider the significance of your words, right? So how are you talking to the kids, like we've already mentioned? No's, don'ts, raising your voice. Those are really significant when you're talking to kids, right? You don't know what these kids have come through the door and faced at home. What if they have trauma at home? What if all they hear at no is no and yelling at home, and now here at church, that's what you're doing too, and again, going back to that iceberg, you don't know what they're experiencing. So consider what you're saying to these kids and how you're saying it.
For example, at school the other day, there was like this big like jogathon, and it was a lot. There was like a lot of kids. It was very chaotic, and my class was sitting next to, you know, like 50 other kids, and there were these boys that were like throwing rocks at each other's faces. It was like classic little boy behavior. It was no deal. And I went up to this boy, a kid not in my class, but in, you know, another teacher's class, that has that label of being a bad kid. So the whole school knows who he is. And I went up to him, I was like, hey dude, I was like, stop throwing rocks at him. And he's just like, what are you gonna do about it? And I was like, let me guess, you're just gonna yell at me and take me to the principal's office? And I thought that was so sad, because that's how he sees adults. Like anything that he does wrong, he just knows that he's gonna get yelled at, he's gonna get in trouble, he's gonna get sent to the principal's office. And I was like, I'm not gonna send you to the principal's office, I'm not mad at you. I'm just letting you know, like, what do you think throwing rocks at someone's face is gonna do? And he's like, it's gonna hurt somebody. And I was like, yeah, and like, you're a really cool dude. Like, you don't wanna hurt anybody, but just know that your actions could have a consequence. You could throw that rock and you could hit a friend in the eye and really hurt him. And he's like, oh, I didn't think of that, until he stopped. So I had the choice of being like, hey, knock that off, stop throwing rocks at him. You're gonna go to the principal's office if you don't stop. But that's what he hears all day, and he's used to that sort of like yelling, and he hears that at home, he hears that at school, everywhere he goes. So considering the significance of your words rather than just like that, no, you're not supposed to be doing that, you know, and coming at it out of a different approach.
And that's what we say. Don't say what you're not to do, but say what you can do. Because maybe that kiddo didn't know what he could do. Like, what else can I do? I need to do something with my hands.
Yeah.
So what else can I do with my hands? Or what else can I do instead of throw rocks, right? Otherwise I'm just gonna sit and throw rocks and I'm bored and I don't know what to do, right? So tell them what they can do, because we assume that kids know what they can do instead, but maybe they don't. Like, what else, what can I do here? I don't know.
Oh, I have a question.
Yes.
Yes.
Well,
We should have said that. Feel free to.
Yes, please jump in and ask questions.
Do tell.
I do, what is it, Kid Zone? Cruisers.
That's a great one.
And I don't like kids running, because, they could fall and scrape themselves, and so what, I've been doing it probably wrong, so I need to, but I tell them, don't run! You are gonna fall and you could hurt yourself and you'll scrape yourself and there'll be blood everywhere, no! Better just to walk everywhere. So that's probably not a good thing.
I mean, I just might say, hey, let's walk.
So remember,
And I'm-
walking feet.
I do a lot of show me. Show me. Show me how you walk. I don't remember how to walk. I
Okay.
do it, with the little ones. Obviously, in this class, I'm not, well.
All right, let's go back and try that again. If he's still running, take him back. Let's try that again. And you walk. Good. Let's walk. Remember, we need to be walking in class so we stay safe.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just had a suggestion. We use slow motion. Do
Oh,
if you can only do slow motion running.
I like that.
No,
That's a good one.
Making it a game, making it a
Making it-
competition, always fun for
Yeah.
kids, right?
Slow motion running. I like
Because
that.
the stop,
I'm
walk,
writing it down.
don't run. You might have lost them at the don't, right?
No, I usually don't, because I get
Because then you
so
get to very end. I've seen them
animated
in there. You
Yeah.
get very.
with it, and then I explain to them what would happen, what's the consequence of running. And they sometimes listen to me, they usually listen, slow down.
And making it
I
like
like the slow
the
motion.
slow motion, a game, a competition. Like, do I walk as good as you? Do you know? I do a lot of that, and it seems to work because then they're engaged, and now they're like, oh, okay, now I'm gonna remember to walk.
Okay.
Which is why, they listen to your fun story at the end, and they're like, oh, okay, yeah. Yes.
So, you've got a group, 20 kids, and you've got a disruptor. and you take that disruptor out of the group, and they're now being dealt with. Is that good or bad?
Yeah, good question.
Well, you gotta remember, we gotta think of the other group too, right? We, you know, we're going back to, we're not gonna change that behavior, we gotta think of the other kids in the group, and they are here for a purpose, that kid's here for a purpose, taking them out, not a bad choice, right? There's some kids in
Wired.
Room.
Yes.
They call it that room.
that room, okay, well, thank you, that room, same thing, they need to be taken out, because they're not successful with a group, right? And that is fine.
If they're not being safe, you have to also, of course, protect all the other children
Yeah.
too. But it's more so then, like, when you are speaking to him, and you do pull, not him, but you are pulling this child out, and you are speaking to them, going back to considering the significance of your words. When you pull them aside, you're like, hey, like, you've been super bad, you're not being safe, rather, saying, like, I don't know, like,
I might say, hey, it's really hard to be a part of the group, can you come, I get down a little because I'm talking to you, but it's really hard to be a part of the group, can you come with me over here, let's go try this over here.
and to see, like, it could be overstimulating. A lot of times, the big groups become very overstimulating for these kids, and they then get more and more amped up, and then once they become more amped up, that's when you'll see maybe the aggression, the elopement, sometimes, like, and the cursing.
And going back to the iceberg, perhaps that kid doesn't even sit in the classroom at school,
Yeah,
right?
he's probably
Perhaps
just not feeling safe.
Yeah, because at school, 5 days a week, he's overwhelmed with the 30 kids that are in his class. He comes to church, oh, there's 30, they're running, and my way of communicating that I don't like it is to hit the kid next to me, push him down, or
Yeah.
not walk around the room. So it's okay to pull a kid and take him to a safer place because they might need that. Maybe there's no safe place at that kid's home either, right? And always with a big family, there's 10 people that live in his house and it's wild all the time and he doesn't feel safe there. And now at church, it's the same thing. Again, it's like that iceberg, you don't know. So pulling a kid, because we want to keep the other kids safe, we want to keep that kid safe, perfectly okay. I pull kids from my class.
I wish they came to class with a number on their chest of how many hours of sleep they had last night.
Yeah. Or saying, like,
Okay, you can go over there. You go take a nap.
I mean, forever a problem even in the class. I never know what I'm going to get.
giving them the opportunity to just step aside and take a break too. Like,
But you want to make it
let's
positive. You want to make it a positive opportunity, not
Yeah.
like, go stand in the corner. You're in trouble.
Well, I just want to give kudos to Griffin over there. Because my name is, he is the best. He does one-on-one, and kudos to you, and you make my
Aw.
serving at the front so much easier because you do one-on-one, and you do an amazing job. Amazing. So I want to publicly.
I mean, I haven't been in all of them, but in some of the classes, I mean, like, awesome job to, like, every
Everybody,
single
yeah.
one of you guys. It's tough. Managing children of all ages, managing behavior is really, really
It's
hard.
really
And I think
hard.
you guys are all doing amazing. We in no way are coming up here and being like, you can't do
No.
that. What you did is really bad. Don't do that again. No, not at all. We're just trying to give some tips and tools to kind of help make it easier. But, like, seriously, like, every single one of you guys is just awesome and doing your very best. And those kids know that you're there every single Sunday to show up for them and to, you're trying, you're not giving up on them. And that's another huge thing. Like, how many times have adults given up on some of these kids, Like, and the fact that you guys keep coming back every single Sunday and try and try and try. I think that alone just speaks volumes, so.
We have a question.
I do. Just because, as you know, we went through it today. When you're in a situation where you have two children, but they're family, right? So they're way more aggressive with each other.
Yeah.
Then, and it being a church situation, you cannot come over and pull them apart or try to, you know what I mean? You can't put your hands on them at all,
Right.
right? So how, well.
Well, I mean, yeah. Dang it, I can't tie them to a chair.
Right, you know what I mean, like, I know, because I have done some ABA, and I've done stuff like that in my own family. And normally you may hold them or something like that to give them that safety, or to give them that, like, what do you do? Like, how do you even separate them? How do you pull them from that situation?
Well, we're not trained to, like, go hands-on with those kids. I
Right.
mean, that's not our intention to come in and, like, restrain them,
Right.
put them in a hold. Like, that's not our intention. And ABA works with some kids. You see that ABA approach really is the approach with kids with autism.
Yes,
But when you have kids with emotional behavioral disorders, or when you have kids that are more trauma-based, you want to come at it with more of a trauma-sensitive approach. So one strategy really helps is like giving those kids, I think I know who you're talking about, is like giving those kids an opportunity to be a leader. Like, hey, like, Jameson, why don't you come over here and why don't you help me with this? I need help passing out this craft. And Sage, why don't you go over there and why don't you help this person with this? Getting them to separate, it's a positive experience and it's ways for them to, you know, be a part of the class and to be helpful. But rather than being like, you guys can't do this, stop fighting, let me separate you, like, hey, Sage, you go over there and like, do this, help me out with this, I really need a big strong boy to come help me pass out these papers. Jameson, why don't you come help me out over here? Does that make sense? Just trying to make...
It's, I mean, because I do feel like, you know, because I host, so I can't always go over and talk to them right in that moment if it's happening, and sometimes we are short-staffed,
Right,
we
yeah.
were today.
And I made some
You know.
suggestions, have some activities in some of the other rooms already planned that are fun, like, hey, come with me, we go play Legos, we play Jenga to separate them a little bit. The thing is too, is what's accepted at home may not be what is accepted here, right? So like the roughhousing, kicking each other, fighting, may be totally fine, and that's what they're used to in general, and then separating, they're like, I don't understand why we can't do this.
Yeah.
Because this is accepted behavior, right? And it goes again with that, the iceberg, right? What's
Right.
accepted at home and what's okay is at home may not be, you know, what we view as okay, or back and
Well,
forth.
and probably just the consistency, like you said, of bringing it up every week, this is the expectation, because I know I brought it up today, like, this is our space, but by then, they were already on each other, you know what I mean, before the expectation, because it was before service started.
And maybe before, downtime can be a real cause of behaviors in kids, right? Down, unstructured time, and sometimes I think, you know, kids who are managing disabilities or managing something internally don't do well with downtime because they don't know how to play. They don't know how to play. Whereas there's other kids who can play tag and play Legos or find an activity to do, but these kids are like, I don't know how to play. All I know how to do is fight, kick, punch, run around,
Right.
be disruptive.
So having
right?
little activities set aside before the lesson even starts. If you see them coming into your class and they're already amped up, there was already an antecedent that happened probably before they even got to church.
Right.
Hey, why don't you come over here? Why don't we just color together for a little bit? Or why don't we go build something with
Right.
Legos and get him or get any of the kids like engaged in a structured activity before the lesson.
Right, and there's all those separate rooms in there, so just go into those separate rooms, have it already set up. You know, you can have activities set up in those rooms and just close the door, and if you don't need them, you don't need them. But if you do, you can go right and then separate kids that way, or give them something to do and teach them how to play that way. Because again, downtime, going in through all of these, I feel like that's kind of where maybe some of these, you're seeing the challenging behaviors is the beginning and the end, those downtime where kids are like, what do I do with myself? Yes.
And remember too, I mean, we just got out of COVID, a lot of these kids, especially like your second graders, you know, if you think like all of kindergarten, they weren't in school. So they don't have those social skills on how to interact with others. And then all of their first grade year, I mean, was like also half at home, half at school. So they're still, by the time they're in second grade, I mean, a lot of those social skills aren't there. And, you know,
The skip of the first 5, it's interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
yeah.
No,
So,
a lot of kids skip that year.
yeah.
Wow.
And I mean, we're seeing behavioral issues like all across the board, like at schools as well.
Well, I can't tell who's talking because they have masks on, so it's very frustrating. It's like a kid.
We can't hear them.
Yeah.
Another thing to do is a first and then,
Oh, we skipped number 3.
oh,
the
did I skip number 3?
processing
Oh,
time.
sorry, yes, I did.
Allow processing time. It's supposed to just
Oh,
have
it's just
one
supposed to
process.
have one processing, but you know. we
So
were
what
extra
this
processing.
means is just, and trust me, I have been faulted this so many times, but it's like, don't run, 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 right? And so what processing time is like, hey, walking feet, and then count 10 seconds in your head. A lot of the times it takes those kids a little bit of time to even process what you even said. So if you over prompt, they didn't hear anything you said. I don't know if there's anything else.
No, that's good.
So just count 10 seconds. When you give a prompt, count 10 seconds, and then say it again, just to be mindful of how many times you're prompting that child to do something.
Use a first and then, first do this, then we'll go do that. I had, today, a little kiddo underneath the table or underneath the couch, and he didn't want to come out, and I said, well, first sit, and then we'll go play Jenga or whatever he wanted to do. And I just waited, quietly, loud for the processing time, and he eventually came out and sat, and I was like, oh, great, I love how you're sitting, let's go. Right, because I want to give him control. You're going to do what you want to do, but I'm not going to be like, hey, if you get out of there, we'll go play Jenga. I like to do it first and then make sure, like, hey, you're calm, you seem good, now let's go. So first then works a lot. First walk, then we'll sit.
Yeah. Or in like the explorers, it's like, you know, a lot of times they're like, I want snack. So in that case, you could do like, first, we're gonna listen
The
to
activity.
Ollie, then we will walk, you know, and then have snack.
Right. You guys can use a motivational tool. Hey, are you gonna earn your Bible bucks today? Maybe you guys can even give Bible bucks for making good choices. Like,
Yeah.
oh, look at it. I like how you're sitting there down so calm. Here's an extra Bible buck. I don't know, you guys can kind of talk about that. But maybe giving Bible bucks more frequently for following the expectations might be motivational. Verbal praise is also huge. You've got to think, a lot of these kids, they don't hear a lot of, you might be thinking about yourself and maybe, oh, I praise people all the time. Oh, great job, I like what you're wearing. But maybe some of these kids hear nothing positive, ever.
Yeah, so I love how, Johnny, I love how you're sitting quietly on the rug. I love how you're keeping your hands and feet to yourself. I love how you're listening right now, just constantly verbal praising. The Bible bucks, when she said that, I saw a lot of you guys.
I don't
like,
know. I don't really know how you guys, but just a suggestion.
Oh, I do.
You want to
Use it all the
motivate
time.
these
No,
kids.
it's just the issue is Michael gives out too many to the
Yeah.
point where.
No. There is never such
He's
thing.
throwing out Bible bucks like this.
Yeah.
Here's the hundred.
There's never such thing as too much praise.
I think he's just.
at all.
Take the $1. Give them the $1.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't be like, I love how you're sitting quietly on the rug. Here's
Keep it up.
$1,000. No.
$1,000.
No.
But a $1, don't you have $1? You have $1?
Yeah.
Yes.
A $1 for, sitting, okay, how many is it gonna take you to get the those are the,
Yeah.
it's gonna be a while.
Taking them to the store before.
Right, I can't see.
What are you working for?
What are we trying to work for today? Oh, there's a soccer ball in here. What do we need? 100 Bible bucks?
Oh, we're gonna get some today for following the expectations.
Yeah, I love how you're sitting quietly on the rug. Here's a Bible buck.
I mean, maybe you can throw out $1.
Yeah. So any questions on those?
I changed it.
Oh.
I moved on. We're trying to watch our time here too. Okay, so your reaction can influence the outcome of behavior. So don't panic, right? Oh my gosh, this kid just ran out of class. What do I do? Stay calm. Just follow him. Where's gonna go, right? There's a bunch of staff down. I also had a kid walk downstairs, and I'm like, cool, man. I'm just gonna follow you. I'm gonna stay calm. I'm not gonna freak out. Because what do you want me to do? If I was like, oh, get back up here. You can't do that. I mean, right? That would have amped him up, and possibly maybe he would have ran outside. I don't know, but I know that there's people downstairs and I'm like, hey, help me out with this kid. There's always staff downstairs that'll help you. I mean, and you just be like, hey, I got a little walker going on.
Yeah.
So don't panic when things happen.
Don't take it personal. That's a hard
Don't
one,
take it
right?
personal.
When they get super mad, maybe they say things that are really mean or really hurtful. We take it super personally, but they're not trying to purposely, be mean to you. It's not a personal attack. Again, going back to that iceberg, right? You see the words, you see the action, and you take it really personally, but remember, what's happening, underneath. What are they actually feeling inside?
Just this past week at work, I had a student spit on me in the face. And it's hard. I'm just like, okay, I'm not going to take that spit personal. I'm just going to look at you and be like, hey, let's have a calm body. She wasn't spitting at me because she was trying to make me mad. She was trying to communicate that she didn't want to do the activity. There was other things involved, right? So take a deep breath. I can't take it personal, right? Most of the time. It's very hard. It is very
Whatever
hard.
you get paid is not enough. Nobody spits on me at work.
I also get called very choice names. I like to say I have some second names at work. I'm sure you do too. You know, again, not gonna take it personally because that's how some people know how to communicate, right?
Tone of voice, body language kind of goes back with like, being, careful of the words and how you are talking with the child. Body language has a lot of things. So like if you're upset with the kid and you're just like, I told you, I mean, I've definitely been there, done that. So just be mindful with our spatial awareness, like.
That's why I do a lot of this. See, that's why I keep getting low because I like to talk to kids at their level.
Yeah. So, and then just, remember.
Why you kneel every time you talk to me? Yeah, I get it. Oh,
No, I like this. Hold on.
Yeah, but just to remember that, they are a child and to remember the whole child, not just the bad behavior that they're exhibiting.
And then we give an example. You want to do the example?
Yeah, so rather than correcting a child on their misbehavior, praise the other child for following the classroom expectations. So we gave an example. So Bonnie is standing up and shouting during the lesson. So instead of being like, Bobby, like sit down, like she's trying to talk, you could instead say, Susie, I love how you're sitting quietly on the rug. Here's a Bible book. So praising the children around the child for what following the expectation rather than
Correcting the behavior.
the behavior.
And then if that child follows suit, you want to immediately, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, you're sitting too awesome.
Usually they'll see their friends being rewarded and then they'll stop and then you immediately
Immediately
verbal praise or Bible book praise. Like, great job, Bobby, for sitting quietly on the rug. All right, so
Oh. Should I plot? Oh.
I tried to find 2 videos that kind of
There we go.
encompasses both lower elementary behaviors that maybe we see here and in the high school level. So I think the first one that played was
the
high
high
school.
school.
So as you're watching it, kind of think, what would you do in this situation? How would
There's
you
volume
respond?
on the top right. Or sorry, on the side.
On the side. Oh,
Side.
got it. Okay, ready?
Caleb, cool it. Okay, everyone, I need you to get your papers out from yesterday. Those need to be on your desk. Caleb, if you do not have yours out, that will be a 0 for this assignment. Caleb, I am not gonna play these games with you today. Pick up the paper or go to the office. Pick it up. Caleb, I don't know what your problem is, but you will not be disruptive in my class. Do you understand what I'm saying?
What y'all looking at?
That's it. To the office. Out.
So first, what did you guys think? What did the lady, the teacher, what could she have done differently to handle the situation?
Everything?
David, why are you sitting like that?
She handled the whole thing wrong.
I mean, you don't know, maybe Caleb had a rough night last night, or he didn't know how to do his homework, or he didn't know how to do the activity and doesn't know how to ask for help, right? So he didn't want to listen because maybe he wanted to be excused from class.
I heard some wisdom recently that a lot of people, they only have one emotional reaction to anything. So whether it's fear or embarrassment or whatever, anger is what comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you never know, like the ice cream.
I love that ice cream example, because you never know what this kid's going through, right? And how that teacher responded. He's like, I just need some help because I don't get it, right? So he's trying to respond with anger, the anxiety.
Anxiety can come out as a form of anger, like sadness can come out in the form of anger. So yeah, I mean, I don't want to say the teacher did everything wrong because it's such like a natural response. The kid, just seeing it is like the kid is being disrespectful in class, and it's so clear to be like, stop doing this. You're not following the rules. Like, you're gonna go to the principal's office. I don't know, yes, I agree that the teacher didn't do it correctly, but I think it was a very natural response from the teacher to correct that student in a different way, so.
It is kind of our natural response to act in that way and forget what's happening outside of the situation, right? Plus you're in a class and you have all these kids, it can be tough.
I think the
get
mistake
it.
was that the teacher showed emotion. That's about the only
Yeah.
thing that I would say would be the biggest
She
problem.
met the kid at his level,
Yeah.
so he was angry, she met him with anger, whereas
Yeah.
if she
They just
saw
had a
the
fight.
kid up angry
had a
here and she met him at this calm level, the children is naturally gonna like over time meet you back down in here.
Right.
Power struggles can be hard, so remember, you choose to engage in a power struggle, that's what you're gonna do, you're gonna fight.
So, before you go on,
Mm-hmm.
what would have been a better response?
I might have said, the task was what, take out your piece of paper, we're gonna do the assignment, I might have been like, hey, we're having some trouble, see me after class, and moved on. And if you wanted to sit there and not do the assignment, right, we'll talk after class, because how many kids don't know what's going on?
Did he have the paper? Do you need help getting your paper out? Do you have the paper? Do you need another piece of paper? Do you need a minute to kind of chill and, catch up?
Yeah, it seemed like the whole focus was on him, everything was him.
And also drawing attention,
Yeah,
what if
it was-
he's, that's embarrassing, right?
Yeah, and so, and like what you said, Dave, that,
But we don't know what she's
that
dealt with him
actually, I hadn't
before.
thought
Yeah.
about that, but
I
maybe
mean,
that
it
is
could be-
his reaction to everything, is this anger or this,
Yeah.
because it just, like, the whole focus was put on him,
Yeah.
rather than,
Yeah, I mean, if he had thrown that paper, I probably would have ignored the throwing of the paper and would have been just like, I would have just left it and I would have been like, hey, why didn't you just go take a break? You know, rather than being like, don't throw that piece of paper on the floor. Just like, we know it's not a good choice that he made, but rather than,
Right.
calling out every single behavior that he did, I would have just been like, hey, do you want to go step outside in the hallway and just take a minute to yourself and come back when you're ready?
It seems like she escalated it.
She did, yeah.
She challenged him at everything, don't do that, and it's like she.
And she said, pick up the paper, and so he picked up the paper and then re-dropped it, which was again another power struggle. Whereas if she had just ignored that, right, it was just a piece of paper, right, she's not putting, this class isn't unsafe at this point. She had just ignored the paper throwing and just said, hey, so you're having a hard time? Why don't you go take a minute, go get some water, if you want to step outside and talk, we can get the class situated and we can go chat for a second, and you can just come back to the task whenever you're ready.
And let's say that was happening all the time, so she is dealing with this every day. And so now she's escalating because she's taking it personal.
Yeah.
Right? So she's
She's
escalating.
feeling
So this is happening
disrespected.
every day, I'm frustrated, right? She's frustrated and she's taking it out on him, right? Because you do this every day, you never have your assignment, now I'm frustrated, I'm gonna take it out on you. All right, there's one
I think there's
more.
one more, yeah.
I think this is the kid one.
You don't have to don't forget you left those things out there. Throw it in the trash can. I don't have any more peaches. Sit down. These are dirty. I don't have any more peaches. Would you like some banana? Zachary, Brianna, and Michael are hands. I'm sorry, that's why I didn't throw them on the floor. They're dirty. No, just they're dirty. Now you eat your peaches. It's okay, Brittany. Joshua, would you like to get up and have a banana?
or not.
Do you hear how she's saying in the background, like, everybody, enjoy your peaches? Like how it's soccer
You want to let them have a banana or do you want to go back to class? Okay, we're going back to the classroom. Quiet, come here. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you didn't get Joshua, that really hurt.
He doesn't care.
He's hangry.
He's
This is reminding me of dating. Oh, that's good.
You should date different girls.
But she's picking up everything so he doesn't have access for me to give him things to throw.
Oh.
But there's a lot in that room, right? So that might not have been.
This is a war going on.
It is a war. 'Cause look at that room. There's gonna be some more.
He's so cute though. And it's a pleasant house.
Now just one day.
Yeah, so obviously the trigger originally was he didn't get his peaches, right? They fell on the ground and then, but one thing I noticed, she's like, do you want a banana or do you want to go in the other room? Oh, you want to go in the other room? Like that's where that processing time is. Like I don't even think the kid even heard anything she said. And then based off her reaction, he totally went from just like kind of being sad about his peaches to then falling on the floor to now hitting to then like her reaction just completely made that situation go from 0 to 100.
Right, give him some processing time. Was it so bad that he was on the ground?
No, he's sad about his peaches.
He's sad. He's gonna process it. Maybe he would have gotten up and had some bananas instead. I don't know.
Well, I think what you said about processing time, that is really a good pointer. Because, I hadn't thought about that, but you do have to think about this. And I don't think he had enough processing time from the very beginning.
Yeah.
He went straight to brainstorm.
My peaches, I mean, you could have probably just mourned with him about the peaches.
About your peaches too.
Yeah, you know, you could have mourned with him for a while, these
Yeah.
poor sad peaches. Oh,
That's
dear.
biblical too.
Yeah.
Or
They always
broken
say like kids really hear.
You could have mourned with him about the peaches.
Blessed are
Well,
those.
the one peach didn't even.
Right.
Yes,
Can I watch you do that?
Yeah. Why not?
I told him, but I just think processing time in that case. I hadn't thought about that, so really, I'm when you love them.
They say that kids really only hear like 2 or 3 words that you say. So if you think of it that way, that kids only hear 2 or 3 words that you say, what are those 2 or 3 words that you're gonna say that you want them to hear? You know, for example, like, I need you to sit on your bottom and
quiet.
Be quiet. Well, I need you to. They already don't know
They
what
don't
you
even
said.
remember.
Oh, let's sit on your bottom. Good, sitting on your bottom. All right, let's. Yeah,
That's what I was thinking.
exactly. Like what?
There's studies with how to stop.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Sit.
yeah. So just.
All right. Does anybody have any questions? I know we're getting to time, so I'm sorry.
I have a question.
Yes.
Go ahead. Talk at the same
No,
time.
it could be the
It's probably the same
the
question.
same question. You know, no, there's the challenging child and what cruisers?
Yeah.
And,
That room or down?
That's
Down.
Oh, here's another one that's excellent.
and he you know, and he
That's
takes manhandling basically.
It's unsafe. It's
To
to the point
control
it's
'em.
unsafe. We had tears and spitting today, and it's just not safe.
And I'm like, he spits on me, and I said, no, Matthew, we don't spit. He goes, no, I just did, look. He's like, yeah, no,
Yeah.
no,
But
that's
this
not the right way to go about
Yes.
it, you know, and I'm holding him because he just kicked this girl and made her cry, so I'm comforting her, she's like, you know, looking at me as her ally there, and you know, it's just kinda, he requires one-on-one.
We had him in Explorer. Like we know who you're talking
Yeah,
about.
and you know, and he
Yeah.
knows what he's doing, and,
Yeah,
and
totally.
he tells me, you know, like, oh, that's, you know, and you're like, don't do that. He goes,
But I
He's
want
laughing.
to point out that I feel like he's not, you know, for him, he's not getting any information out of the story. You know, he's not paying attention. We
Yeah.
can't really get the eye contact. So I feel like, you know, when is it not, you know, when should he just not be there? Because we want to do what's good for him as well as, you know, today not having Griffin, of course, we managed fairly. But you know, it was very distracting, so of
Yeah.
course you have to, you know, when it gets to the point where these other kids are all distracted.
So I think something to remember, and I've said it to some of the volunteers in that room, is maybe your mission with that kiddo is not necessarily to have him sit and listen to the message. Your mission is to provide him a safe environment, and
Yeah.
that is, you know, how he is going to participate and how he's gonna learn through you providing him that safe environment what God's plan is for him. Does that make sense? So he's not gonna learn, he might not be ready to sit in a group and
Well,
to
and
meet with the
and
other
that being
kids
said, I mean, I
and-
think we learned today that he does, to be safe, cause to me that's the most important thing, is that we need the one-on-one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because we had tears today
He
and
does,
this
yeah.
poor little girl, but, so I mean, that's something we need to work into the schedule.
and maybe
that
a
we
safe
have
spot,
a
location.
person assigned, yeah.
Seeing
But
what they
then-
can and can't do at the time, modifying your expectations of like what the kid, you know, can do at that time. You're right, maybe sitting on the carpet is not something that he's able to do at this moment. So, hey, like, why don't we just pull a chair and you can sit on the chair? Or if you need to stand, let's stand and let's just stand in the back of the room.
Right.
When we had him in our Explorers, he definitely required a lot of one-on-one support, but we did a lot of that first, then this. Do this, then this. I remember, you know, obviously he's much older now, but when he was in our class, he didn't ever want to clean up all his toys, so he would like dump all the toys, and then he would run away, and then dump more toys, and he'd run away, and dump more toys. And I literally, like, not physically prompted, but guided him to the toys, and I was like, first we're gonna clean up this, then we can, you know, go get snack. And then, you know, he didn't want to, like, handed him the toys, like, put the toy in the bucket, like, hand over hand, toy in bucket, you know? He does.
Yeah,
I don't
I mean,
know,
one-on-one
But
is
modifying your expectations, I
Yeah.
think, for him.
And
For
maybe the
anyone.
group's not his
Yeah.
thing, right?
Yeah.
Right, we're not there yet.
Group,
Well,
it's
you know,
also probably very overstimulating for him
Yes,
to be in
I
a big
think
group
so.
like that.
I think he's
Maybe the
very
corner in that
Well,
back area.
I asked him today, I said, so do you wanna go do something, just you and I, wanna get away from the other kids? And he's like, no, I wanna stay here, I
Yeah.
wanna stay here, and he's
So
like,
maybe he
stay
can be
here.
in the back and like watch, like half and half participate. Like you're in this room, maybe you're like over here and someone's with them and you're like, you're kind of with the group but not really.
Right,
you know,
and he will do that. The one thing is like when it's free time, you know, and he'll go up and he'll take things from kids and he'll kick kids and he'll push kids over.
That's where that unstructured time, here's where you're gonna see majority of your problems. So then if you have like designated, you know, activities for him to do, like, hey, Matthew, why don't we come over here and why don't we build blocks together? You know, in a more safer area where it's not as loud, not as chaotic, not as overstimulating. Could help.
But it is true, you do need one-on-one with somebody like that.
And they totally do, yeah.
But when do you tell the parent though? I mean,
that's a good
cause there's gotta be a time where the
That's-
parent needs to know that this child's just being disruptive.
And to be mindful of how we talk to parents, I think is another thing as well.
I'm gonna put that on the leaders.
No, totally.
That'll be a conversation, I think.
Well, yeah, I understand
It's a
that.
conversation that has been had,
Definitely,
and
It's like
it's,
a
And maybe a
constant
plan and-
conversation with those parents to
Yeah.
see what
Because you
their
can't keep
expectations
letting
are.
these children get hurt by a source of
Yeah.
a child or whatever.
And he's
They're not
young,
gonna wanna
and mom
harm
probably just
back.
isn't at a time where she's willing to hear that there might be something more with her child. Like, the idea that maybe her child is on the spectrum is probably not something that she's able to hear right now. So when we do talk to parents, it's very hard to process, yeah. And so to just be mindful of how we speak to parents, you know, like it's probably very devastating for them to hear like that, you know, there's behaviors or that there's something, you know.
Parents grieve when they
Yeah.
find out their child has a disability or their
Issue.
issues.
Yeah.
People like to say normal. What is even normal?
Typical,
Typical,
different, yeah.
different. All those words. Parents literally grieve for the loss of a child. It's a grieving process. Just like you don't think of it like that, but it's different. It's a different life when you find out you have a child who is not maybe what you envisioned, right? And parents grieve.
You know what would be good though is, and I think we do have some activities, but if we knew of activities, you could give us ideas of activities
Yeah.
for a child like this, because, I mean, you mentioned building blocks, but like,
Yeah.
what else could there be?
Like
Is
sensory
coloring
type
or is-
activities, like, you know, that's
Sorry,
one thing
but-
that we could, yeah, sorry, of
Sorry.
course, bring is like putty or like heavy
Can I have sand?
lifting.
Do we even have to, don't we have a room for that? Do we?
Yes.
Okay.
So that,
It's up here. We've been in discussion about getting one downstairs, or at least a
Okay.
corner or something that's a sensory room for the the cruisers.
Because I don't know, I mean, I would say like coloring, but he doesn't wanna color. I don't know
And
what
giving
type of activities
choices.
are appropriate.
Giving choices is a big thing, like, do you wanna color or do you wanna build blocks? Giving them that power of choice.
No, I understand that, but what I'm saying is, give me the activities.
So
Are
maybe a
they
list of
cutting? Are
activities.
they building blocks? Is
Yeah.
it
Well, that's-
touching fuzzy things? Is it?
Yeah, and that's where
what I'm asking for.
that little, if we can create a corner that
Yeah.
we were talking about, that
Yeah.
have those options.
Everything was
Like,
all
here's
Yeah.
different things that you can do in this corner. That's what we've been
That
talking
would
about.
be great, and then you would have like fuzzy things
Yeah.
and building blocks
Well, you
and
know,
putty and that kind of stuff.
That might be something we could talk to the parents about too, say, you know, he doesn't seem to like this and like this, is
What-
there
what
something
does-
that he likes at
exactly,
home
what does
that,
he
you know,
like?
that we could
Yeah.
have here for him?
Right,
You know, to not make her feel like, you know,
I mean, I get the idea, but what I want is like the hands-on, what
Yes.
do you have, tell me what you do.
Yeah, and asking mom or dad, like, hey, when they're having a hard time at home, what do you do with them at home that really seems to help? You know, and then, you know, see if we can try to bring it into that.
So I'm gonna let you guys kind of close. I need to repeat them. So if you guys still have questions, you can still talk a little bit afterwards. But I know that like kids are probably
Oh, yes, sorry.
running around over there, and then
Our
I
own
need to
children
release
is
you
Someone
guys
in
as
the
well.
midst of
Now I
It's just mine.
So, and who's watching them right now
I
didn't
locked
get
the
the
door.
training. So.
Oh, sorry.
There's a lot of yelling going on.
But I do want to say
She
this.
is, she's gonna run them over.
These ladies are here, and if you have questions, you guys can talk to them. They're here. Josh is her husband. I almost said Josh is your
My
wife.
wife.
Probably pretty accurate.
But like, so he's on staff, and so she's around all the time. And Victoria, thank you so much for being
Here
here
all
as
the
well.
time,
And
happy
so
to help.
let's give them, thank you guys. And I think one thing that, like, I was talking to a few people, like, Dave, like, I was like, these are very practical, they're here to give us some practical steps, and so I really felt like that was
Yeah,
really good.
practical things you can use with all the kids,
So-
not just.
Yeah, so if you have more questions, then you can do that. I'd love to just pray us out and close, and then we can dismiss, and then if you want to stick around and keep talking, then you're welcome to do that. So let me pray. Father, thank you so much for the kids that you've entrusted to our care, and we just pray that no matter what specific needs that they need, that you can help us be able to love them well, provide a safe space for all the kids here, and be able to just be great leaders to whatever they are need. And so give us wisdom, give us direction, and may we just continue to make this year, this 2021 year, just great within Kids Zone. We love you, Jesus, and pray this in your name. Amen.